Thank you for being here, everybody. This is wonderful. We have a nice full house here tonight. This is Tuesday, January 8th, and we are here for another installment of Recite. Normally the first Tuesday of every month at 5:30, but the first Tuesday of January we were closed because it was New Year's Day, so that's why we're here today. Thank you, Macy, for WCTVA being here and filming this every single time. And creating an archive of this that you can find online. So if you know, fabulous things happen here and you tell your friends, I can't believe you weren't here, you should see this thing, you can tell them where to find it. On WCTV8.com, they have a Norman Williams library page that has all of the library stuff. It takes a little time to get edited and up on the site, but like last month's is there already. Anyway, so thank you for being here. I'm going to start with one little poem, and then we'll get going with our people.
Danelle, would you remind everybody, or I will remind everybody, that that microphone does not amplify your voice.
Yes.
To the audience, only for the recording. So when you're reading or speaking, you need to speak out.
Yes. We have a lot of people here with varying hearing abilities. Mine is like fuzzy often. And this mic will help on the video that we will see later at WCTV8. It does not help in the room now. So go ahead and breathe from the diaphragm and project. And if you're in the back and you can't hear, you know, if you want to, you know, slight encouragement, we can do that. We're a family. We can talk to each other. Those two sentences don't always go together, do they? But anyway, I thought I'd read just a little fun, light thing. I started reading a bunch of winter poetry, and I just wanted something fun and light instead. So this is a nice little Mary Oliver poem called What Gorgeous Thing. I do not know what gorgeous thing the bluebird keeps saying, his voice easing out of his throat, beak, body into the pink air of the early morning. I like it, whatever it is. Sometimes it seems the only thing in the world that is without dark thoughts. Sometimes it seems the only thing in the world that is without questions that can't and probably never will be answered. The only thing that is entirely content with the pink, then clear white morning, and gratefully says so. Yeah. Okay, so the first people we have coming up here tonight are new to Recite. Two of our regular patrons, Morgan Friedman and Jensen Peters.
We have a rap song. It's called Hippos and Alpacas. Okay. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Hippos, alpacas, alpacas. Went to the beaches, just saw growing some peaches, while drinking some peaches, before their mama told them to go and preaches. Holla!
Awesome. Thank you guys very much. That's wonderful. Okay, it's a hard act to follow. I was going to say, you know, how about next? Ann Bauer, would you like to go next?
I wish I could promise you as much fun. Hard act to follow, guys. This one's called Lady Luck. I can be kind of glum, so apologies. Lady Luck. I was born to, not quite, almost, good enough. Though the city opened its doors, though I explored free street to street with quarters in my pocket, nickels for subways, buses, most unspent, knowing already, without words, my immense luck. Luck, her soft, shod feet tracking my every step, her wagging finger, noisome tongue, murmuring, why, can't you see what I offer? So, I think most, thank you. I think most of us know that the bees are in trouble. And when I started this poem, I didn't know that actually in China, there are whole troops of people who are now doing the work of the bees. But I had started to imagine a future in which people had to do the pollinating of all the apple and almond trees and so on. So this poem is set in the future, or what I imagined was going to be the future, but maybe it's closer than we think. And it's called Following the Buds. We follow the buds, clothes yellow and black. Like the bus, we park near orchards, packed with our bikes, sun stove, water bottles, spades, but most vital, the fine-haired wands and delicate ladders. Without us, the almonds, apples, plums don't grow. We buzz from tree to tree, fueled by our queen's breakfast, Grandma Honig's flatbreads and cheeses, raisins, and purified water. We climb, stretch, reach among the flowers, dust pollen from stamen's busy anther to waiting pistil's sticky stigma. We buzz among the twigs and branches, none of us but Grandma, old enough to imagine when insects roamed free, unbidden, fruiting the world. Sometimes, as we eat her noonday stew, she sings one of the old songs or tells of those sweat-troubled days when a bee's sting could make childhood tears flow, when mosquitoes could kill. We shiver inside our striped shirts, glad for our cleaner, safer world, though the way her eyes glisten, the lift of her voice, makes us almost wish for those dangers. You don't have to clap all the time. Let's see. So, how many people have a wood stove? Okay, so this poem's for you. Wood. It's set back in August. Wood's been delivered this August day. 2 cords of wood, mettlesome pile, mountain of logs we need to array in tidy stacks, though we'll lack style of old Vermonters, whose freestanding walls, bare to all weathers, stand sculptural guard, declaration of order against wind, ice, dark, torrents, metal roof strips on top, weighted with ponderous stones, proclamations of effort, gradually whittled to feed wood stove, warm, tired muscles. Heat up soup until the stacks dwindle and days grow longer again. There's a guy who has wood stacks out on Route 4 West that are just the most amazing things. They're long and straight. How does he do that? I want to watch him build one of those. Honestly, mine are sloppy. Okay, so, you know, we got to have a political poem once in a while. Skirmish. When our leaders erase words, censor phrases that speak truth of destruction, discovery, doubt, how can the small battles we artists wage succeed? Some days, I can take my job seriously without self-demeaning. Say, yes, I speak truth to power, beauty to drudgery, wonder to dismay. These words, my tiny weapons on the huge battlefield of greed and ignorance against the dense troops of rich and powerful tyrants and bosses. Whew, I get carried away. And on the smaller plains, my skirmishes attack self-doubt, past errors, dullness of aging faculties. Some days I retreat, hide behind vacuum cleaner, snow shovel, wood pile, hoe, and hope the soup I've cooked today restores my strength. Read, listen, wait for others' words to arm me again. Okay, so thank you. And this is a sort of a love poem, sort of. It's called In Love. In love comes on fast. No fears, no doubts. Lasts months. Swans around, stemmed glass in hand, tumults cells, knocks doors open, and then, like the iris's deep purple, like the maple's autumn reds, dims, and yet, may flash again, surprising well-worn companionship. Like a 3 a.m. eclipse, you wake to seek, unhinging your bones. Thanks.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Thanks, Anne. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Guys, come back again with another one.
Yeah.
What was that?
I was telling the girls. Okay, let's see. Richard, would you like to go next? Richard Estee. So Morgan and Jensen, if you guys want to do this again, and B, if you would, we'd be happy to have you.
Lots of seats up here, move up. During the month of December, I've been reading some of the collected poems of Pablo Neruda. He was born 1904, died at the age of 69 in 1973. He's a Chilean poet. These poems are from the mid-1950s, and the first one is called Ode to Criticism. I wrote 5 poems. One was green, another was a round wheaten loaf, the third was a house, a building, the fourth a ring, and the fifth was brief as lightning flash, and as I wrote it, it branded my reason. Well then, men and women came and took my simple materials, breeze, wind, radiance, clay, wood, and with such ordinary things constructed walls, floors, and dreams. On one line of my poetry, they hung out the wash to dry. I thought that was the best poem and the best line in the whole poem. On one line of my poetry, they hung out the wash to dry. They ate my words for dinner. They kept them by the head of their beds. They lived with my poetry, with the light that escaped from my side. Then came a mute critic. Then another babbling tongue. And others, many others, came, some blind, some all-seeing, some of them as elegant as carnations with bright red shoes, others as severely clothed as corpses. Some were partisans of the king and his exalted monarchy. Others had been snared in Marx's brow and were kicking their feet in his beard. Some were English, plain and simply English, and among them they set out with tooth and knife, with dictionaries and other dark weapons, with venerable quotes. They set out to take my poor poetry from the simple folk who loved it. They trapped it and tricked it. They rolled it in a scroll. They secured it with 100 pins. They covered it with skeleton dust. They drowned it in ink. They spit on it with the suave benignity of a cat. They used it to wrap clocks. They protected it and condemned it. They stored it with crude oil. They dedicated damp treatises to it. They boiled it with milk. They showered it with pebbles. and in the process erased vowels from it. Their syllables and sighs nearly killed it. They crumbled it and tied it up in a little package they scrupulously addressed to their attics and cemeteries. Then, one by one, they retired, enraged to the point of madness, because I wasn't popular enough for them. And saturated with mild contempt for my customary lack of shadows, they left, all of them. And then, once again, men and women came to live with my poetry. Once again, they lighted fires, built houses, broke bread. They shared the light, and in love joined the lightning flash and the ring. And now, gentlemen, if you'll excuse me for interrupting this story I'm telling, I'm leaving to live forever with simple people. And the second one is Ode to My Suit.
Ode to my.
Ode to My Suit, S-U-I-T-E.
Okay.
Every morning, Suit, you're waiting on a chair to be filled by my vanity, my love, my body, my hope. Still only half awake, I leave the shower to shrug into your sleeves. My legs seek the hollow of your legs, and thus embraced by your unfailing loyalty, I'm taking my morning walk, work my way into my poetry. From my windows I see the things, men, women, events and struggles constantly shaping me, constantly confronting me, setting my hands to the task, opening my eyes, creasing my lips, and in the same way, Suit, I am shaping you, poking out your elbows, wearing you threadbare, and so your life grows in the image of my own. In the wind you flap and hum as if you were my soul. In bad moments you cling to my bones, abandoned at night time. Darkness and dream, people with their phantoms, your wings and mine. I wonder whether someday an enemy bullet will stain you with my blood, for then you would die with me. But perhaps it would be less dramatic, simple, and you will grow ill, Suit, with me, grow older, with me, with my body, and together we will be lowered into the earth. That's why every day I greet you with respect, and then you embrace me, and I forget you, because we are becoming one, and shall be always in the wind, through the night, the streets, and the struggle, one body, maybe, one day still. Thank you.
Thank you. That's really cool. Let's see. Meg Brazil, would you like to be next?
Okay.
Okay, Meg Brazil, everybody.
It's been a while. And then I thought, well, I'll look in my book today and see if those things I wrote a couple months ago are actually something I can read aloud. So I've decided they are. So let's see. I'm sort of still writing them. I must have written this one near the end of fall, whenever that was. So the title is called Life Still, Still Life. I have picked all the flowers, every last stem, every head of color and sunshine, swept them, thorns and all, leaves and stifled buds, into my arms. Still in full flower, a few strew petals in our path. Oh beauty, oh flowers, I cannot leave you. Squeeze into this vase, drink this water. Did you like how I threw that little Shakespearean exclamation? Oh beauty, oh flower. All right, all right, I'll do this little, I recently moved to to Barnard, and you can see what it's doing to me. This doesn't have a title yet. It's probably not even finished, but he's working his way south on the North Road, wrapping a line of fencing from elbow to shoulder, making a round of wire and barbs. The pasture, now open to the road, no barrier between. He's called the cows home from the summer pasture for the last time this year. I always miss that point where, like, you know, there's a flashing sign on 12 for the cows, and then you realize, oh, they're not in their summer pasture anymore. I'm not going to see them till next year. So this is for someone here who shall remain unnamed, who is a poet, and once said something along the lines of he or she felt that his or her poems weren't, I don't know if it was deep enough or sort of serious enough, but anyway. The poet: you say your poems aren't deep enough. You like them, but you wish they'd say more. They talk when you're not listening. They speak and creep out from behind corners and couches. I hear them. I laugh, sometimes out loud. But when you're not looking, I wipe away a tear. You know who you are. Okay, this is the last one, and perhaps the longest poem I've ever written. Cows Don't Know Christmas. They were all up there near Cloudland, not that far from heaven, but they didn't notice. The dawn broke pink and nudged under long lashes to tease open those big brown eyes. 23 head made up the herd. Was 24 till lightning struck one late summer. She was stiff as a frozen coyote come winter. It didn't seem right to strike on a clear summer day, to take her down when she was in milk, still feeding a spring calf. Now it's Christmas. There will be waffles and syrup and bacon with eggs and some fruit for breakfast, maybe pie, presents too. But milking comes first, that I know. Grandpa says cows don't know Christmas. No, they don't, but I do.
Welcome back, Meg. Let's see. So we have 10 poets here tonight. So Yash will be number 5, and then we'll take a break, and then do everybody else after the break. So Yash Nembinski.
Thanks. Okay, the first poem was inspired by a poem from last time, and it's called 12 Seconds of Silence. And it goes like this. Was anyone listening? Thank you. Okay, on a, I don't know, next poem is this. It is chapter 4 in the my Moses and Israel book. It's it sets the stage for just about everything to come for the Hebrew nation. So if you can imagine, I've been reading this elfin fantasy, and you can do a lot of stuff if you're dealing in the world of elves. And one of the things they do is like, and the sorceress created a magic portal, and boom, the enemy escapes through the portal, and the hero just can't grab him enough time. So if you can imagine, I'm going to create a whoosh portal, and we can all go back to a very difficult time in human history, ancient Egypt, and it is warmer than it is here, so if that's any consolation. An eagle flew over the Egyptian brickyards, where masses of bricks were laid out to dry, where Hebrew men in conscription, performing varied chores, bustled about. Some took the red clay transported by hand from the Nile and stirred in straw. Then others took the mix and threw batches rolled in sand into molds. Others scraped the mold's borders and threw the clay clumps back into the mix. The molds were flipped, and the moist bricks were brought to trays carried off by other men. Bricks on bricks were stacked to dry. Few men were caught by foremen slacking off from a brisk pace, but 2 men were arguing side by side while throwing clay batches into each space in the molds. Again, why should we abide here in Egypt like slaves? God's great promise to Abraham? I call it a cursed myth tame priests use to justify our lot. Is it of any real help? Any? How with it do we avenge the babies murdered by the high priest of every temple? No. I tell you, when men like us are not scared to fight, yes, I mean it, then we will know how to fulfill that promise, not before. The man threw a clay batch with vehemence into a mold, and without saying more, he left his post and, in belligerence, brushed past a woman ladling out water to others. Then he picked up another ladle and served himself. You are hotter, Dathan, perhaps, than most. Would you rather not work but rest in a tent with the ill? Dathan ignored Miriam, but returned to his post. Let me tell you what I will believe forever. Caleb spoke and turned aside with a mold and passed it to one who shook out the clay bricks. It makes no sense to worship many gods. How alone did they originate? All the incense Egyptian priests burn glorifies Pharaoh. I'm sorry, I forgot something. Glorifies Pharaoh. Sorry, I've revised the poem in the process of memorization, which is really my ultimate reason for memorizing these things. It's not to perform, because I hope I do better. But anyway, all the incense Egyptian priests burn glorifies Pharaoh. He's the culmination of their conceits and their weird, fantastic myths. Who can know the truth of any of their gods, their feats? But all their priests must bow down to Pharaoh. And who is Pharaoh but a mortal man? There is the truth of their religion. So, here Caleb stopped his work and turned to scan for any overseer nearby. So he is a veil that our Lord and God will tear away in his time. But as we are, we cannot fight them, except to keep faith here. Caleb thumped his heart with the great promise. Oh, what a dreamer you are, Dathan scoffed. You jabber on as if fabulous bliss is just a moment away. Caleb coughed to signal an overseer's near approach. The men were silent as the man passed by. And out of Edom, a tone of reproach was in Dathan's voice. Your family, why should you believe so blindly? Dathan shook his head. Yes, out of Edom, and therefore out of Abraham. And so Judah took us back in mercy. And that's why I swore I would be faithful to Almighty God. And he has shown me he is close. He knows of all our pains and suffering. His rod of justice will strike Egypt. All life flows from him, the single omnipresent source. I can't explain it, but I know every act of faith has within it, has a force that helps us uplift ourselves from all we see and suffer. So our bodies are here next to each other's. Our thoughts remain free. When I open my mind to God in prayer, his hope flows in me. I wish you could see. Dathan frowned sorely. I'd like you to see the strength I feel. Know this, Caleb. We must stop letting the pharaohs grind us down. We must not, like past generations, just trust Egyptian mercy, accepting new laws that enslave us, bleeding sheep to slaughter. You can wait with faith, but I will not pause in seeking a way, some way to sunder Pharaoh's yoke. That's what I live for. Enough! The overseer who had passed by returned. You two, all the time, yap too much. So stuff your great thoughts. Because there's one thing I've learned. Too much talk means not enough bricks. And not enough bricks mean I don't get fed. Simple. And with hunger's malice, his lashes not whipped across their calves. That's just a sample of what, yes, I will do to anyone. The overseer lifted his voice so all around could hear. If you keep me from one of my meals because your brick numbers fall. An eagle high above stopped circling, banked in a wide arc away from the thousands below. Caleb saw it while his legs blazed in pain, watched it cross vast, bleak desert sands. I can't just end there. I got to transition out of the portal. And this next poem is mine, but it sets up the last poem, which is the 9th poem of Rilke's in Sonnets to Orpheus. And my poem goes like this. Honestly, just to introduce it very quickly, a friend of mine, she's actually read here, Pamela Harrison, had a book of poetry published. And I remember reading about it in the Valley News and thinking to myself on the way to church, does it really matter if you're published? I mean, how much can a poet say in a word? And I thought, wow, if that last line is 10 syllables, I got to make a poem about that. How much can a poet say in a word? Whoa. So I was like, all right, after church, first thing I'm going to do. So I wrote the poem. And it goes like this. And I'm especially reciting it because of the last word, which is night. And in the Rilke poem, night is a very, very important word. So that's what brought this poem to mind. It goes like this. How much can a poet say in a word? A word like a love drawing him within, past commonplaces, into a chamber in which she unlaces all nuances and lets them slip in her magnificence, so that he may cherish each curving line and marvel and be silent and adore. How long should a line of poetry be, given birth from the cloud of unknowing? Oh, let the spirit dance and spread her arms catching my eyes, my ears, all senses, as we whirl in rhyme and rhythm and sight. Here, let us dance. We have danced, all alone, holding the flowers fallen from the night. And finally, the Rilke poem goes like this. Anyway, it goes like this. Only in the realm of praising may lament go, nymph of the weeping spring, watching over our precipitation, that it be clear to the very rock that bears the portals and the altars. See, round her still shoulders dawning hovers the feeling that she is the youngest one of the sister moods in the spirit. Jubilance knows and longing acquiesces. Only lament is learning still. With girlish hands she reckons night on night. the ancient evil. Yet, suddenly, aslant, unpracticed, even so, she holds a constellation of our voice into the sky, unclouded by her breath.
Thank you, Yash. Okay, so we're going to have a little intermission. One thing I forgot to mention before, we have our book here that we're documenting everyone who comes every week, and whoever wants to write in the book, whether you're reading, whether you're not reading, you can put whatever you want in the book. You can draw a little picture if you want. But if you want to, dive into the book, that'd be awesome. And then we'll meet back here in, maybe 8 to 10 minutes-ish. Is that what we usually do?
Yeah. And mention that the girls need to come back and put their names in the book if they
Oh, next time I see them, I'll mention it to them.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Wow, we all got quiet. Welcome back, everybody. So our list has been augmented. We have more people here, which is awesome. So we're going to be here till like 10:30. No, I'm kidding. So get comfortable. No, this is great. We have all sorts of good people on the list. But before we get started again, I wanted to say a few things. One is that this Thursday from 4 to 5, so that's 2 days away. From 4 to 5:30, we have an opening for the new art exhibit that's going on. This art exhibit is called Love Your Library. And it's a really diverse group of artists that came together. Well, not came together. They each individually created some art showing a love for this library. It's really fun, and they'll be here Thursday afternoon. There's everything from something in a Hindi style to a cookie to a late night photograph that someone did after we closed. I hung around for a while and it was fun. Anyway, so that's good. And then on Sunday, Peg Brightman is spearheading a fundraiser called Honoring Victims of School Shootings in Music, Dance, and Poetry. This is happening this Sunday at 3 p.m. and there's poetry involved. I am one of the poets reading. Bob is one of the poets reading. I don't know if anyone else in this room is. Peg, you're not reading, are you?
We've got everything from Neruda to
yeah,
to wonderful poetry.
All sorts of stuff, to Dylan Thomas, and Michael Zoldis is going to play saxophone, which always will make me go anywhere. And the Moving Spirit Dancers are going to be performing, as well as the Bridgewater Chorus. It's going to be a fun thing. And then later, and so this is that.
Where is it?
Oh, it's at the North Chapel here in town at 3 on Sunday. And donation tickets are $20 or what you can afford at the door. And the money goes to benefit Gun Sense Vermont and North Chapel's outreach to children and families. And then at 5, just to toot another horn, at Artistry is going to be a Sunny Saul production. He wrote this suite of music for someone whose name, if I try to pronounce it, I'm going to do it incorrectly. Akalan, yes, but I don't remember his first name. Anyway, it's a suite of music, and there's like 12 different musicians involved. I'll be playing flute on that one. I'll be playing flute on that one, and there will also be a dancer, and there will be a drum set, a trumpet, and clarinet, and flutes, and upright bass, and Sonny on piano, and this guy who plays this little Korean thing and this weird other oboe-like thing. It's gonna be, it's really cool. It's, Sonny can bring all of these things together and make it a beautiful thing. And so after the Gun Sense thing at 3 at North Chapel, go to Artistry at 5 for the other. Okay, so you have your weekend plans now, all set. So get back into the spirit of poetry. I'll read another Mary Oliver poem. There's one about mowing the lawn, which just seems wrong in January. It's a great poem, but it just seems that it's wrong. So here's another one. This one is called I'm Not the River. It's very short. I'm not the river, that powerful presence, and I'm not the black oak tree, which is patience personified. I'm not Redbird, who is a brief life heartily enjoyed. Nor am I mud, nor rock, nor sand, which is holding everything together. No, I am none of these meaningful things. Not yet. And so next we have someone who is a new employee of the library. Is it okay if I mention that?
Yeah.
So Maeve Ryan is all sorts of things. She's a very talented woman. But one of the things she is the new marketing person here at the library. So if you have marketing ideas, you can, grab her afterwards. But Maeve Ryan.
This is very official. Hi. Hi. I didn't, yeah. So I'm going to read a poem from a book that I use a lot in my yoga classes. I teach yoga, and I always begin or end my classes with a passage. And this one is this is by Rebecca Campbell from her book, Rise, Sister, Rise. The Mystery of She. Her heart was connected to the flowers. As they opened, so did she. Her voice was connected to the birds. As they sang, so did she. Her wisdom was connected to the trees. As they whispered, so did she. Her womb was connected to the moon. As it waxed and waned, so did she. Her attachments were connected to the tides. As they let go, so did she. Her passions were connected to the fire. As it was stoked, so was she. Her eyes were connected to the entire sky. As it saw clearly, so did she. Her emotions were connected to the rivers. As it flowed, so did she. Her spirit was connected to the stars. As they shone, so did she. Her soul was connected to the entire universe. And as it expanded, so did she. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we have a returning poet who hasn't been here in a while. I'd like to welcome back Frank Gatto.
I haven't been here for a while because I've been in a couple of hospitals and sampling the absurdity of the voyage from being a human being to being an object, which is something that happens to you and you become very much aware of that. I wasn't going to read tonight, but I watch the news a lot and I worry about, I worry about the future of my country that I will leave behind. And I think of my parents, who are immigrants. Gee, I'm sorry I'm breaking up. I didn't think I would do that. And how they came here with nothing and built lives for themselves. And the very things that they loved about America are threatened by what is happening today. And though I identify as a conservative, I do not identify with the people who have stolen that term and wrapped it around themselves. As a conservative, I feel I have to defend, protest, and people who don't agree with me, and hope that we can have an honest discourse. Anyway, I was thinking, while Josh was reading, I was thinking about a poem by E. E. Cummings, whom I had the privilege of, see how old I am, I had the privilege of meeting him many, many years ago. And I don't know if it's a poem that you know or not. Maybe Cummings has fallen out of fashion, I don't know. It has one dirty word in it, and we know that no pure ears are accustomed to such, but I will read it anyway. I sing of Olaf, glad and big, whose warmest heart recoiled at war, a conscientious objector. His well-beloved Colonel Trig West Pointer, most succinctly bred, took erring Olaf soon in hand, but though an host of overjoyed non-coms first knocking on the head him do through icy waters roll, that helplessness which others stroke with brushes recently employed, anent this muddy toilet bowl, while kindred intellects evoke allegiance per blunt instruments. Olaf, being to all intents a corpse and wanting any rag upon what God unto him gave, responds, without getting annoyed, I will not kiss your fucking flag. Straight away, the silver bird looked grave, departing hurriedly to shave. But though all kinds of officers a yearning nation's blue-eyed pride, their passive prey did kick and curse, until for wear their clarion voices and boots were much the worse, and egged the first-class privates on, his rectum wickedly to tease by means of skillfully applied bayonets, roasted hot with heat. Olaf, upon what were once knees, does almost ceaselessly repeat, there is some shit I will not eat. Our president, being of which assertions duly notified, threw the yellow son of a bitch into a dungeon, where he died. Christ, his mercy infinite, I pray to thee, and Olaf too, preponderatingly because, unless statistics lie, he was more brave than me, more blonde than you. Thank you. Thank John for that.
Thanks, Frank. Thanks for reading. Don't forget to sign the book. Everyone should sign the book. Okay. So we have, let's see. We have 4 more people. So I think we'll go Sandy, then Bob, then Peg, then Ann. Does that sound good? Okay. So the next one's going to be Sandy Anderson.
Thank you. All right, we're going to get into some deep business here. I am really riled up right now. Okay. This is called Gimme. Take it in, take it in, take it in and in. You put it on the table and start to grin. Put it down, put it down, put it down, down, down. The table is empty and you start to frown. Fill the space, fill the space, fill the space, space, space. Gotta run and get me something else to put in its place. Gimme, 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 that's all I can say. It's a graveyard of gimmies that I throw away. Written by Sandy Ellen Anderson. When I was about, let's see, 1969. So, this is called Under the Bridge. This is a very serious subject. Under the bridge, dirty under there, hang on to the edge as the water flows. The water is deep, the stakes too high for taking a chance to let go and get away. Underwater is how you feel. When you get wet and feel the current, you will never forget, but can misplace it. You can misplace the thought of what it was like under there. You'll never forget, but can misplace the thought of what it was like under there. See, I told you it was just so upsetting. I have to. Bridge. Making one alone, it's nearly impossible and not believable that you can build a bridge from here back to there that can be used, not feared, and can be sturdy, and above all, that rushing, lapping, swirling, pulling water. Water under the bridge. I don't know how the water can go by without taking me in it. I still won't cry. I'll never forget breathing water under the bridge. Thank you. How many more minutes? Okay. I have one that I wrote in Stockbridge, Massachusetts. One night it snowed 4 feet and there was a bridge. And that afternoon I had gone to the bridge before it started snowing, and there was a river. And there was a literal angel drawn of cracks from side to side, and you could see the cracks go all the way to the edges. And then also her dress was like this, and a head
And so it's like there was the angel. It's called Ice Angel. Like a stained glass window, she clings to life's edge. This frozen angel in her riverbed, she talks with reflection. As I stand on the bridge, I know what she speaks of, true life or death. Angel of life, she is unfolding, opening wings and heart for embracing. Angel of death, she is unholding, letting go the ties. She is unlacing. Angel of life, angel of death, so closely related they are one. She beckons to me to live my truest life or give way to rivers her stillness warns. If I dropped into this river from this bridge and passed through her heart, mighty wings would fold. Our two golden hearts would rise up through the heavens as silence would betell my inner world. Angel of life, angel of death, so closely related they are one. She beckons to me to live my truest life or give way to rivers her stillness warns. At midnight by moonlight I walked through deep snowfall, finding my way to river's edge, to the bridge of the angel where I laid in the middle. Her message rose through her snow blanket of rest. Angel of life, angel of death, so closely related they are one. She beckons to me to live my truest life or give way to rivers her stillness warns. Her stillness warns. Her stillness warns. Angel of life, angel of death, so closely related they are one. She beckons to me to thank you. And I have something else for you. And I didn't live here yet. I was in Connecticut, and I wrote a song for Vermont. Like some songs, there's something encoded in there, you know, but you'll have to try and figure it out yourself. I often wrote poems in codes so that nobody knew what or who I was talking about. Okay, Vermont. I love to feel that green mountain air. I have some friends who live there. Those hills have bred some pretty people I know. Their coat sleeves brushing bark on their way home in the snow. Oh, Vermont, the green mountains, hills with rivers running down. You know I'd like to ride through a dozen of your towns. Vermont, I want to see you. Oh, Vermont, the green mountains, hills with fiddles playing high to the fields and the frost and their lovers in the sky. Vermont, I want to see you. And I'll sing the last verse because it is a song. Spread my body over the land and my mind as far as I can see. In your light my darkest night will come. Then will you take care of me? Oh, Vermont, the green mountains, if my spirit ever shines, can I lie with the roots of your ever-growing pines? Vermont, I want to see you.
Danielle, do you have Corey on the list?
No, I don't. Corey, what is your last name?
Cook.
Is there an E on that? Okay. Okay, well, let me see what we got. So we're going to go Bob, then Peg, and then Ann, then Corey. So C-O-R-E-Y. C-O, okay. Sorry, just a little administrative work here. Okay, now we have Bob Burgess.
And so this is my life now, living month to month for the next recite. No more Mr. Gloom and Doom tonight. Just sweetness and light. Right, Richard? Did you want to say something, Richard? No response. So let me try and entertain you with some real poems here versus the ones I've brought in before, which were all written by me. So these are other ones from famous people and the like, instead of my own usual endless tortured confessionals. So, regarding trying to understand all the poems in these precious little poetry readings, the poet Billy Collins had some general advice. Many of you know this. So I ask them, the audience, Maeve, Caroline, I ask them, he says, to take a poem and hold it up to the light, like a color slide, or press an ear against a hive. I say, try and drop a mouse into a poem and watch him probe his way out. Or take a walk inside the poem's room. Imagine that and feel the wall for a light switch. I want them to water ski across the surface of my poem, waving, if they get it, at the author's name on the shore. But you know, as Richard alluded to before, along with Pablo, all most of them want to do is tie the poem to a chair with rope and torture a goddamn confession out of it. They begin beating it with a hose to find out what it really means. Okay then, moving right along for some more welcome, I hope, comic relief. Some shorties but goodies by David Buttbill. Nature is my teacher. She never asks me anything, never says a word. In her class, no assignments, deadlines, or requirements. Benign, indifferent. She doesn't give a damn what I do. All she does is wait. That's the funny one. Try not to look like you're on the path to somewhere. That way nobody will ask you where the hell you're going. Nevertheless, I am still, as many of you know, on the road to Buddhahood, meditating every day for all I'm worth, and spiritual enlightenment. My goal is to become, Danny, ever plainer, ever simpler, heckling's allowed, ever more ordinary. My goal is to become a simpleton. And from what most all of you tell me all the time, I'm making real progress. All right, enough with the jokes, Bob. Let's go with a wonderful, serious classic by W.H. Auden, Many of you know it, Musée des Beaux-Arts. For those of you not properly fluent in French, basically means Museum of Fine Arts. And so this is about some of his thoughts while looking at paintings about suffering. They were never wrong. How well they understood its human position, how it takes place where someone else is eating, or opening a window, or just walking dully alone. How when the aged are reverently, passionately waiting for the miraculous birth, there always must be children who did not specially want it to happen, skating on a pond at the edge of the wood. They never forgot that even the dreadful martyrdom must run its course anyhow in a corner, some untidy spot where the dogs go on with their doggy life, and the torturous horse scratches its innocent behind on a tree. In Bruegel's Icarus, for instance, how everything turns away quite leisurely from the disaster. The plowman may have heard the splash, the forsaken cry, but for him, it was not an important failure. The sun shone as it had to on the white legs disappearing into the green water, and the expensive, delicate ship that must have seen something amazing. A boy falling out of the sky had somewhere to get to and sailed calmly on. And so, I want to end with a piece. It was written especially for this Sunday's coming program of music, which Danelle has spoken to you about, along with dance and poetry at the UU at 3 p.m., which is a benefit program honoring victims of school shootings, and generally, as many of us have already directly alluded to, regarding the whole goddamn disastrous current state of affairs. It's written by Blair Brooks, especially for this occasion, and simply titled, Bang. At the bottom of a painting by Charles White that he called Banner for Willie J. sits the word bang. A circle in the center of the picture frames his nephew, sitting out on the street at the top of his stoop, hanging and chilling on a hot summer day, just sitting there cool and easy in his own doorway. So strong and young, his future in his face, hands, and body, murdered in Chicago. Bang! In Las Vegas, concert revelers flee bump stock bullets flying out of a far-off window. In schools across the land, Columbine, Sandy Hook, Parkland, innocents murdered by assault rifles. In a church, in a synagogue, while people pray quietly. Blood. Nightclubs, theaters, grocery stores. Bang! And it reverberates from the past. JFK, MLK, RFK, haunt those that remember. One after another, we are numb to the sound. We stand still with paralyzed will, polarized. Kill any bill. We listen to the shills who say we need freedom to kill. Thoughts and prayers have no more meaning as victims lie bleeding. Our leaders aren't leading. The country is grieving. Students are pleading, never again. The next bang will kill our friend or child, kill our hope and faith, kill our freedom in the name of freedom. Bang senseless, bang crazy, bang dead just sitting in a doorway. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Sunday at 3. All right. I think the only one to follow that would be Peg Brightman. Who's putting on this thing Sunday at 3. And I'll leave that for you.
That's thanks to Peg that poem was written.
Yeah.
The program's
Well, thanks to Blair, the poet. That's too hard to follow with what I have something else. So, okay, I'm going to just go right to the politics because, you know, why not? So, forgive me if you have a different view. Oh, I have to read it, don't I? Okay. Effrontery. The man who would be king settles for president. Still discontent, he dreams of imperial robes. No, too limited, he wants to be God. Or at least play God. Pull the strings of his trembling puppets so that shirkily they are made to walk, kneel, prostrate themselves, bow, or be trampled by his horse guard. Who needs to be God? A small boy, sullen, spoiled, flung to the floor, beaten with a belt, humiliated, made to sit without dinner in the corner, ignored, until his only dream becomes revenge. Wreaking this mammoth rage on a person, a group, a country, an entire continent is not nearly enough. How to grind all humanity under his heel with contempt, how to vent this rage on the entire planet. Like Alice's Red Queen, his dream of glory is to cry, "Off with their heads!" Oh, to be the Lord High Executioner of the world. Old Glory's time is nearly up. It hangs majestic, heavy with the weight of history. The brilliant stars turned into idols, the red stripes into fashion statements. The white stripes are stained, worn with time's passing. The fabric of the flag is faded, frayed, perhaps beyond mending. Once this flag was blown by a lively wind, defiant of kings, a wind that sang in our ears of freedom, of the level playing field, of brotherhood, sisterhood. Now we watch it being auctioned off to the highest bidder. We see it shrink to a mere ribbon, a reminder of a dream once so cherished that many died happy for its sake. That time was then. The clock ticks. Uneasy we wait for the hour to strike, for what comes next. Maybe a slightly jollier. Maybe I'll just. So I know that we're all still digesting the holidays, but this is an indulgence on my part. So I call it the Ghosts and Dogs of Holidays Past. My unbuttoned feasts of childhood were afloat in whipped cream and gravy, stuffing that burst out of the turkey's mahogany flanks onto serving dishes as children guided small morsels beneath the tablecloth into the cocker spaniel's eager jaws. My mother's barely stifled cry as she saw her Swedish mother-in-law come up the walk with, "Oh no, yet another pie." Holidays past were beaten into a medley of chimes and bells. Dad at the piano, high on the fumes of cocktail hour, played Nola from college days when he played for the silent films. My sister and I played March Militaire, four hands. Finally, our surefire hit. I pounded the opening chords of the Warsaw Concerto while Taffy howled her protest descant. In the kitchen, generations of cooks argued about how to best whip potatoes, discovered too late that the strange jingle they heard was not Santa's sleigh on the rooftop, but the clink of dog tags. A look in the dining room revealed Taffy atop the table, short legs braced on the snowy cloth, attacking the glorious side of beef. The larger family gatherings were spiced with ginger and nutmeg, along with Aunt Nellie's quivering jowls, good humor, and bottle red hair. Heroically, we tackled the boring vegetables, the bland and threatening glue of competing pumpkin and made without sugar berry pies, forced down to avoid hurt feelings. When Uncle Bob made nasty asides about poles and wops, my parents sat ashen. Difficult moments were smothered by passing the Baracchini chocolates or the dish of buttered salted almonds. In those days, almonds arrived ironclad from groves in razor-rough shells, our hands scraped and reddened as we labored to crack them open. From Thanksgiving to Christmas, from New Year's to Easter, we feasted on roast lamb or ham dotted with whole cloves, grazed at smorgasbord tables laden with meatballs, pickled herring, knickerbrod, cranberries mashed with whole oranges. Both grandmothers made spritz cookies as stars, trees, or the shape of your first initial. Find the beam in the 12th night cake and you were queen or king for 5 minutes. Hardened with glurg, Grandpa showed us girls how to dance the humbo. On the ghosts, oh the ghosts of Christmas, try this again. Oh the ghosts of family feasts, the exhausted groans of guests draped on couches as they read the funnies, sighed and digested it all, in dim corners of the living room. Oh the clatter of dishes being washed by tireless aunts, the mingled sense of turkey, unwashed dog, pie, Grandpa's cigar lingering.
That was really fun. Okay, next, Anne Schaffmeister. Thanks. And then Corey.
I have 3 short poems that I'll read tonight. The first of which is called After Saying Goodbye. I walk the dog down the icy drive with anxiety as my leash, a sense of loss, her leather collar. A rescue, she looks to me for safety. The ground's so cold, she holds up first one paw, then the other, while the white birch trees perform CPR. The prudent view of Mount Hunger forces air back into my lungs. My border collie leans into the wind to keep me warm, herding instinctively. To forget about you, I moved midwinter. This next poem is called Mother's Day. The mother wakes up, tossed about in sleep, like a lantern swaying gently hung from an old wood beam to illuminate a cabin porch, while fireflies light up the opaque cover of sky, their movement quickening the stories she lives by, habitual and rote, but not yet fully perceived, and turning into the quiet like a blind man shifting to the quiver of significance. She follows her lineage like a spotted cow into her newborn infant's room, where she touches the ruddy cheek of love, and thus satisfied, forever forgets the exhilarating climb toward her own satisfaction. And the last poem is called Malignancy. In the middle of the night, when I awake, my mother is here beside me, and she sings lullabies in her full alto voice, and she fesses up that this life of ours, both the beginning of it and the ending, is a well-worn path traveled by itinerant strangers who meet later on at an intersection in heaven, nod their heads, smile, and travel on. All your worries are for nothing, she tells me. There is nothing you can do but go back to sleep. And in the morning, I smile at the memory of my dead mother, a mother whose lullabies were hard slaps to the face, and who is terrified of strangers, of life itself. And I know that she loved me, and it is in this knowing that I can sit out on the porch despite. Thank you.
Thanks very much. All right, Corey.
All right, I'm going to read two short poems. The first one is called Walking to the Mailbox with My Daughters. Quiet squabbling segued into quivering lips and welling tears, even embracing, when they found her sprawled out on the shoulder of Route 113, 10 feet from our mailbox. The doe that had orbited the yellow house all summer long, eating our hostas and plucking blackberries from thorny bushes bordering the lawn. Later that day, I stood before the kitchen window, washing dishes, and saw a bleached fern bobbing in the woods, like the white tail of a deer, like a reflection of my own hand waving goodbye. And the second one is Long Sands Beach, York, Maine. We sit on the cement stairs and watch a seagull poke a rumpled paper bag with its beak as the tide comes in. You tell me your mother was prone to fits of rage, destroyed so many things, not a single heirloom spared, depression glass, hand-woven baskets, stoneware jugs. I ask if she was ever physical with you, and you turn away, stare at the relentless waves, waves that reach out for the broken, for the discarded, shards of glass, splintered sticks, crushed stones. Waves that will soften their sharp edges, their pointy tips, transform them into things to hold on to, things to cherish.
Thank you very much. It's so often, it's just overwhelming, the generosity that everyone has in what they share in these poems, and the diversity and the voices that people have. It's just a beautiful thing. I love it. Thank you all for being here. Come next month.